Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about the big ideas from chapter 7 in the book. We're going to talk about how to define symmetrical, asymmetrical, and radial balance. We're going to explain the relationship between emphasis and focal point, and we're going to differentiate between scale and proportion. Leonardo da Vinci's study of human proportion, the Vitruvian Man, embodies all the qualities of design. Symmetry, proportion, and ratio derive from perfection of the human figure. The figure's limbs fit perfectly within their frame. In contrast, the Raisin building in Prague seems to teeter in its playfulness. Nicknamed Red and Ginger for its seemingly dancing frame, however, both parts of the building balance each other out like a dialogue. In the creative process, even such rules as created by Vitruvian Man are meant to be broken so artists can discover new ways to express themselves. Media are the materials that artists use to create their works. This piece was done with pen and ink on paper. Symmetrical representations recall Leonardo's study. When each side is exactly the same, it is called absolute symmetry. When there are minor discrepancies, but the overall effect is symmetrical, it is called bilateral symmetry. Is this absolute symmetry we're seeing, or is this bilateral symmetry we're seeing here in Leonardo's piece? Balance refers to the even distribution of weight in a composition. In works, balance can be symmetrical, asymmetrical, or radial. In sculpture, actual weight is the physical weight of materials used in pounds. All art deals with visual weight, or apparent heaviness or lightness of the forms in the composition. The Taj Mahal is one of the most symmetrically balanced buildings in the world. Each facade is identical with openings that give the building a sense of weightlessness. Frida Kahlo's The Two Fridas is symmetrically balanced. A Frida dressed in native costume is connected to the mirrored Frida rejected by Diego Rivera by a vein, which the rejected Frida cuts off with surgical scissors. A composition that lacks symmetry can still be balanced if the sides possess the same visual weight. This is called asymmetry. While there are only a few ways which works can appear balanced, but there are no laws about how this can be achieved. Here we can see several examples of pieces that are balanced but asymmetrical. Vermeer's Woman Holding a Balance contains several references to balance, yet retains asymmetry of subject matter. The central axis of the composition shows a woman weighing her jewelry with scales. Behind her is a painting in which Christ weighs all the souls during the Last Judgment. This painting features a central axis left of the middle, where a woman and her daughters feed birds at the edge of the tree-lined expanse of Boston Common. Tension between light and dark, as well as the open common and the street, reinforce asymmetrical balance. In radial balance, everything radiates outward from a central point. The rose window above the south port of the Chartres Cathedral is an example. The focal point of a composition is the area to which the artist draws the viewer's attention the most. Strong contrasts of light and dark colors can create the focal point easily. Still Life with Lobster uses complementary colors with the focal lobster in red and everything else in green. The light in this painting draws attention away from Joseph and to the brightly lit face of Christ, symbolizing the divine light. It is also possible to make a work that is afocal without a single point of focus. A manipulation of the focal point. An obvious focal point in this painting is the figure in the center, but the figures outside of her centric group gaze toward us. Their focal point appears to be the king and queen, who are reflected in the mirror on the opposite end of the room. Either the royal couple is the actual subject of the painting, or they have entered the room to see their daughter being painted, or, in fact, their images are a double portrait rather than themselves reflected in the mirror. The painting depicts a work in progress, although it is unclear what that work is. Scale describes the dimension of an art object in relation to the original object or objects around it. And this painting is a large scale at 80 feet long and 23 feet high. When looking at a textbook or screen reproduction, it is important to consider the actual size of the work. Artists can manipulate scale through the relative scale of objects. An object closer to us is larger, while one that recedes into the background appears smaller. Hokusai's views of Mount Fuji subvert our knowledge of how large the mountain is. The Great Wave of Kanagawa shows us two boats in a huge wave in the foreground, visually diminishing the importance of Mount Fuji in the distance. Proportion refers to the relationship between parts of an object and the whole. And this painting appears to be natural, but upon closer inspection, her arm has been elongated to accommodate the curve of the frame. Greek sculptor Polykleitos described perfect proportions of the human body in a text called the Canon. Both the text and the original statue were lost, but both proclaimed that each part of the body is a common fraction of the figure's height. The Greek pantheon possesses proportions on the facade in the ratio based on the algebraic formula x equals 2y plus 1. The ratio of the length of the top step to the platform is to its width is 9 to 4.